guys, and good evening. So good evening. So I'm just going to wait for people to join the stream. I'm trying to cut my nails. Good evening. And welcome to another stream, live stream for tonight. Hello, Esther. Good evening. Chioma. Esther Chioma, good evening. So let me know, can you hear me, please? So let me know, please. Good evening, Rosalita. Yeah, good evening. Longest time. Good evening, Rosa. Good evening. Christiana, good evening. Gifty, good evening. Okay, you can hear me. All right, guys. So good evening and welcome back to our live stream tonight. You guys should please like the video. Thank you so much, Esther. Oh, Chama, appreciate. Yes, I appreciate. Thank you. It's comments like this, they actually keep me going. Thank you so much. Rosa, thank you so much. Yeah. Chioma, thank you so much. Thank you, and happy new month. Yes, happy new month, guys. Thank God for another beautiful month. We thank God. Okay, guys, so in today's video, so like I said, I just came up with something, and then I thought, like, my live stream classes, I just want to dedicate them, like really dedicate them to pattern drafting. For those of you, happy new month, Christiana. For those of you that want to be making use of patterns, the truth of the matter is that pattern drafting cannot be overemphasized, and it has come to stay. So for those people that are still, thank you so much. Thank you, Rosa, thank you so much. I appreciate. For those that are still thinking that what do you call it, cutting with free hand is something, actually it is nothing. So you just need to go, you just need to evolve. Do you understand? You need to move to next stage. So better come to the realization and start learning how to sew with patterns, because that is the only way you can go higher. You are not things that our mom, our grandmom, they did, marking, as in doing with free hand. At this 21st century, you still want to continue. You say, I like free hand, I like free hand. So what I thought is, those people that really want to learn, we are going to be doing pattern drafting in our live classes from henceforth, so that at least, let me know that I'm able to impact people, that at least from here they will know, they will now see that pattern drafting is not a big deal, something that is simple when you understand it. So that is what I thought, and that is what I am going to be doing. So guys, so in today's class, so let me know where you're watching me from. Okay, yes, so I'm trying to open my picture, so it's like the light did viam viam, so that was why. So thank you so much. Let me know where you're watching me from. Yes, so let's see. Okay, so you guys can see this beautiful corset piece. If you guys notice the trend that has been going on these days for most of all these celebrities, thank you so much. You're watching from Abuja, Christiana, you're welcome. Thank you. If you notice the trend, okay, from East, if you notice the trend that has been going on, you notice that a lot of flowing skirt and corset is something that is in trend. Okay, Rosa, thank you so much. You're watching from the US, you're watching from Cameroon, Vivian. You notice that corset and flowing skirts are like in vogue. So you can see. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to draft this piece. It is a simple, beautiful piece. So I'm going to make you guys know how to do this at the end of today's class. Victoria, you're watching from Ibadan. So guys, so let's get started. So I'm going to turn my camera now, and we're going to start drafting. So we're going to start with the back. For those of you that have been following me, you know that we always start with our back pattern. So I think let's see, I'm just going to adjust. If you are just joining us, you are welcome. You are welcome. Okay, so let's see. Yes, I'm just trying to make sure that everything, because I want the whole of my table covered. Yes. So like I said, for those people that are still thinking that I like freehand, those people, they don't really want growth in their life as a fashion designer. They just want to be stuck in the past. So it's better to accept it and start now. So the first line, so I'm going to root some lines on my pattern paper, and then I'm going to explain all of these lines. Okay, so that's the first line. This first line is going to serve as my shoulder line. So the next line I am going to mark here is my bust point line, which is my nipple point. So for this, I'm going to use 11 inches, and then the under bust line is going to be 14 inches. So like I said, the difference between the bust and the under bust is usually 3 inches. You can see 1, 2, 3. But for somebody that is busty, it can be more. Okay, so this blouse, but both the back and the front is a long blouse. So for this, we are going to use, so 18 inches is going to be our waist, and length of our blouse is going to be 23 inches. Okay, so I'll mark all of these lines. I'm going to connect them, and then I'll label them. Okay, so that's our bust point line, which is inches from the shoulder line, and then this is the under bust, which is 14 inches, and then this is our waistline, which is from the shoulder to the top of the navel, belly button, and then this is our full length. We are using 23 inches. Okay, so now let's label these lines. This is shoulder line, bust point, which is nipple point, this is under bust, and then this is the waist, and then this is our full length. Okay, so after this, the next thing we are going to do, good evening, thank you. Yes, thank you. So when I'm done, I'll go back and read all of your comments. So please let me know where you're watching me from. If you have not liked this video, please like the video. I would appreciate it. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now, we are going to mark our shoulder line. Even though this dress is a tube, but I always like to teach this way because it makes it easier, so you understand it instead of just start drafting. So it will help you to be able to manipulate your patterns properly. Okay, so our shoulder measurement that we're going to be using for today is 15 inch. By 15 into 2, you are going to have 7.5, and then I'll add just like half of an inch for the stitching allowance. So from this point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch like this. So you can see I am marking 1 inch, and that 1 inch, when I mark that 1 inch, I want to connect that line to this shoulder line. So the S connecting it is because our shoulder is not a straight shoulder. That's our shoulder is slanted. So that is why they normally do this. So the next thing now, we want our armhole. So the armhole measurement, you can measure your armpit round like this, and then you divide that into 2. Or you can use a standard measurement, which is 8 inches, or you can divide your bust measurement into 6, and then you 1.5. So whichever one you choose. So mine, I'm going to have 8 inches. Okay, so that's 8 inches. I am going to mark that line. I'm just going to straighten the 8 inches line like this. When I straighten it, I will label that line as my chest line, and then when I do that, I'm going to run that line from the top. I'll run it down like this. Okay, so after doing this, I am going to measure what I feel. I'll divide that into 2, so I'm going to have 4 inches. So that 4 inches, I am going to take my pattern curve this way, and then I am going to give it a nice, beautiful curve like this. So this is my hole, well laid out. So after this armhole, the next I am going to do now, we are going to start taking out. So for this, I'm going to snatch the waist. If for those of you that joined yesterday's class, you saw how to snatch the waist. So but for today on, we're going to snatch it more. So let me write out the measurement that I'm using. Our bust measurement we are using is 40. Our under bust measurement we are going to be using for this is 32 inches, and then our tummy, which is our waist, is 36, and then the hem is 40. So these are the measurements that we are going to be making use of. So this bust is going to snatch our waist. We're going to take out 6 inches. So at the end of the day, we're going to do 30 inches for our waist. Can you guys see? Yes, because this one is a really snatched one. Okay, so the next thing we're doing now, so let's take out our dart. So for the dart, you're going to use your nipple measurement, which is called, professionally it is called the bust pan. That's from this point, let me see if you can see me, from this point to this point, just your nipple to the other one. So it is called a bust pan, but in freehand we call it nipple to nipple. So for this, for my bust pan, for this today's class, I'm going to be making use of 9 inches. So when I divide, normally the point is 8, so I'm going to add half an inch to it, you understand? So when I do that, I'm going to have 9 inches. That's, I'll add 1 inch, that's half inch, I'll have 9 inches. So that 9 inches, you don't want to place 9 inches like this, no. You are going to divide that into 2, and then when you divide that into 2, we're going to have 5 inches. And then that 4.5 inches, we're just going to go across all of our lines like this. So you know why I am doing it across all of us, okay? So mark it across all of our lines like this. And then we are going to connect it like this with a straight ruler. Can you guys see? You see, like I said, pattern drafting is not difficult. Just get a mindset that it is not difficult, and it will not be difficult, okay? So the next thing we are going to do, don't stop telling yourself that you cannot understand it. You can understand it. Just be coming to my live classes, you will understand it, okay? The next thing we are going to do now, we want to take out our dart, okay? So in order for us to take out our dart, we'll take out a dart of just 1 inch. So I'm going to come to this point like this. So I don't want the dart to go into the bust point, okay? So what I'm going to do, from this bust point part, I'm just going to come down with like 1 inch, okay? And then from this top one, I'll come up by like 1.5 inch. So really optional dart, do you understand? So the next thing, I'm going to come to my part. I'll take out half of an inch to the right and then half of an inch to left, okay? So when I do that, you remember this part that I came down, I am going to connect that dart. I'll connect it that way, and then I'll float that in this point like this, and then this one also, I'll connect the dart leg to this point, and then I'll bring it to that point. You see how simple this looks? So now this is going to be my dart, which I'm going to cut off. So this is the original dart. This is not the snatch waist dart, okay? This is like the original dart that is involved in this piece, okay? All right. So the next thing we are going to do now, we're going to take out our neckline. So this neckline is as a guide, it's just for a guide. So we'll take 3.5 inches, and then I will take 2 inches because it is neckline. So like I said it is for a guide. It's just for a guide. So you just connect it that way. The next thing we are going to do now, we'll take out our body measurement, okay? So for the full body measurement, our bust is 40. So we'll divide our bust measurement into 4. We're going to have 10 inches because it is 40 inches, just we indicated. So you mark the 10 inches here, and then you are going to add stitching allowance. So for this, I'm just going to add like 2.5 inches allowance. So like if you have been following me, you know that I am the queen, the mama of ants. I like to add allowance to my clothes, and like I always tell my online students, it has actually saved my life a billion times. Yes, it has. At the end of the day, instead of it's better for it to be too big, so when you're doing your final coupling, you trim it out, then it is not enough, you understand? Then you now start getting confused. So that is when I see people add 1 inch as stitching allowance, I used to wonder, like, okay, everybody with their own. Okay, yes, so let's continue. So from that point, like I normally say, what you have on your chest line, you are just going to extend it and bring it to your bust point line, because it is the same thing, okay? So I'll mark this that way, and then I'll come to my under bust. So the under bust is 32. So when you divide 32 into 4, we're going to have 8 inches. You mark 8 inches here, and then you are going to check this that allowance that we have here. So that's like about half of an inch. You bring that back into the pattern, and then at this point I'm going to add my stitching allowance. So because I want to snatch this waist, you know, initially I used 2.5 inches for my bust area. So for this part, I'm not going to use up to 2.5. I'll use just like 2 inches, okay? So that is okay. So the next thing I am going to do now, I am going to mark that. So I'm going to connect it that way. So you can see even at the end of the day, as I'm drafting my pattern, the thing is not aligned. So at the end of the day, I ended up still using my 2.5 inches allowance. It is not aligned properly. So it is better left this way. So the next thing we are going to do now, we add the waistline measurement. So our waistline that we are going to be adding, the waistline that we are going to add in to be add the normal waistline at this point. Don't reduce anything yet. So which is 36. So you divide 36 into 4, we have 9 inches. And then remember 1 inch dart, so that's our original dart. So you bring that back and then you add your stitch allowance. So at this point now, I can do my 2 inches stitching allowance. So I'll mark it this way. It's 10 inches, which is 40. That's the hip is 40. And then I'll add back my stitching allowance. Okay. So at this point, after doing that, I want to check the shape that I have for my corset. I want to check it at the down, so I can see that it is a round, not an opened corset. Okay. So now, since it is an open corset, since it's a round corset, not open, so this is what I am going to do. So I'm trying to check which is the best way that my pattern curve is going to arrange this for me. Okay, so you can see what I have here at this point. So drop your questions. If you have questions, please drop your questions. If you have not hit on the like button, you guys should please like the okay, nice, thank you so much. You're watching from Ghana. Like the video. Okay, people should hit on the like button to support my channel. Okay, so now we have done this, we have marked this out. So the next thing we want to do now, we want to do our waist snatching. Okay, so in order for us to do our waist snatching, I am going to check what I have from this point to this point. I have about 6.5 inches because I want my dart to be straight. So I'm going to just take the center of it and then I'm going to mark this straight. Okay, so this line, I am going to run this line like this because this is not a front pattern. So my darts are going to be straight. So you can see I am drawing this. So now we want to take out our 6 inches, which is, we're going to snatch our waist at 6 inches. That's, we're taking out 6 inches from our original waist measurement. Okay, so that 6 inches that we're going to take out, what we're going to do, we're going to divide it into 2. 3 inches, we'll take 3 inches at the back and then we'll take the other 3 inches at the front. Okay, so that 3 inches now that we want to take now, so now we're going to think, how do we want to take it? Do we want to take 1.5 inches on this side and then take 1.5 inches on this side? Or do we want to take 2 inches on one side and then take 1 inch on one side? So you are the one that will determine to think, just do it however, but all we know is that we are taking out 3 inches from this piece. Okay, so for this, let's do 1.5, 1.5. Okay, so that will be okay. So since we're doing 1.5, 1.5, at this point, this is the waist area. You're going to take 0.75 here and then take 0.75 here. Okay, so when you take 0.75 there, 0.75 here, you are going to float that back. That's, you are creating like a new dart leg. Can you see? Because that dart, where we want that dart out is the waist area, not the bust and then not the hip. Okay, so can you see? You can see what I'm doing. You can see. So this is the additional dart. So at this point now, we have taken out 1.5 inches from here already. So now the other 1.5 inches, we're going to take it out from this point. So that 1.5 inches, we're going to take 0.75 here and then take 0.75 here also. So when we do that now, so for this one like this, we are going to take the same thing we did. You come down by 1 inch for that part because we don't want it entering into our bust area section. So now we are going to create out the dart legs this way and then float that back into the hip line this way, and then I'll take this back like this and then float this back into this point. So at the end of the day now, so this is like our extra dart, our waist snatched. So you can see it is a simple process. For those of you that want to learn pattern drafting, try this. All these things that I'm teaching you guys, try them out, okay? So now we are done with our front pattern. So the next thing, we want to add our neckline. So for the front neckline, if you notice, the front neckline is like a curved round neckline, but for this back neckline, it's going to be straight. You are not going to curve it, because if you curve it, it's not going to make sense. So the next question you are going to ask yourself is, how deep do you want your back neckline? Do you want to cut it? Do you want it to be at that shoulder level? Most times, most people, they like to come down a little bit. So for this, what we are going to do in this class, we are going to come down from our chest line. Let's come down with like 1 inch or half of an inch. So when we come down that way, the next thing we are going to do, we are going to use this like this, our pattern curve this way. Can you see? So we're going to use our pattern curve this way, and then we're going to float that into the armhole region. So when we float this that way, this is going to be how our back is going to be. It's going to be curved, okay? So when we do that, so for the down part of our blouse, we are going to create a curve. You can see that the blouse has a curve. It has one kind of beautiful, it has one very beautiful curve. I hope you guys can see it. You can see it on the thumbnail also. So in order for us to create that, so this part, I'm going to take this part, is going to, from the waist area, I'm going to come down from my waistline, just come down by like 1 inch. And then when I take that 1 inch, I am going to curve it, and then I'm going to do this. I'll use my pattern curve, and then I am going to create that beautiful, nice curve like this. Can you see? So like I said, the back and the front, both of them are curved out. So I'm going to create out this beautiful curve like this. So after creating out this beautiful curve, the next thing, we are going to start cutting our piece, okay? So by the time I get to this point, I'm going to cut out our back. So because I don't want a yoke, if not, this is going to serve as your yoke. If you want to add a yoke to this piece, you're just going to cut this off, and then you're going to use that as your yoke. But since we don't want a yoke, can you see how beautiful this piece looks? So most times, like I normally say, after drafting your patterns, you will know from your pattern if that dress is going to come out fine. You understand? So it depends on how it looks on your pattern. That's the beauty of pattern drafting. How it looks on your pattern, you will know if you will proceed or if you have to do another pattern. If the pattern is looking funny, I advise you just draft a new one, okay? So now the next thing, let's cut this piece out. So before then, let's label them so we don't lose them. So this is 1, 2, and then this is 3. So for this, if you want to add loops to the back, another thing that we're going to do, so for the original piece, this is without a zipper allowance. So for the back, you are going to determine how much do you want to take out. So for this, I'm just going to take out about 1.5 inches from this piece. That's from my back piece. You understand? So this is going to serve so I'll take that out. So this is going to serve as my, because I want to add loops to it. So I'm going to take this out, okay? So I don't need that. So the next thing I'm going to cut, I'm just going to cut all of this piece like this. Can you see? So if you are just joining us, you're welcome. You can leave a message. Just let me know where you're watching from. So once I raise my head, I'm going to read all the messages. Can you guys see how beautiful this piece looks? Yeah, it really looks so beautiful. So let me bring out the yoke in case case I want to add a yoke to this piece, you can just use this to add a yoke to your piece. Okay, you see how beautiful our back pattern looks like. So that is the beauty of pattern drafting. So like I said, don't shy away from pattern drafting again. All right, so now I'm going to keep this piece, and then we're going to work on the front piece. So the front piece is like the gang of the whole matter. So now we are going to go over everything again by marking all of our lines on our pattern paper. So for this, I am going to, excuse me. So for this, I'm going to mark like a straight start up line like this. I'll mark my straight start up line like this. So I'm just trying to, let me cut out my pattern paper. I actually ran out of pattern paper. I had to beg my husband, call him to help me to buy. So that's it. So the next thing we are going to do, I am going to mark our bust point line. So like I said, for this, the bust point is 11 inches, which is the nipple point. I'll mark it this way. And then the under bust is 14 this way. And then the full length, the half cut, which is the waist area, is 18. And then the full length, we are using 23 inches. So for that, for the front, I'll just make it 24. Okay. So the next thing, we are going to add all of these lines. That's why we're going to rule them, just connect them with straight lines, and then we'll label them. So that's our bust point line, which is the nipple point, and then the under bust. So like I said, the difference between the bust and the under bust is usually 3 inches. For bigger bust, it can be up to 5 inches. Yes. So this is our waist measurement, and then the last line we have here is our, what do you call it, the last line we have here is our hip line measurement. That's that down part of this beautiful corset blouse. So when we mark like this, so let me write out the dimensions that we're using again. Our bust is 40, our under bust is 32, and then the waist area is 36, and we're going to be snatching it to 30, and then our hip line is 40. Okay, so these are all of the dimensions we are going to be making use of. So the next thing we are going to do now, we are going to add our shoulder measurements. Okay, so for the shoulder measurement, so for this pattern, we are going to make use of a shoulder dart. Okay, but I'm not going to make use of a bust dart, just a shoulder dart. Let's see. So for the shoulder measurement is 15. 15 divided by 2, you have 7.5, half of an inch for this allowance. And then from this point, we're going to come down by 1 inch. So the essence of that 1 inch is for us to slope the shoulder, because our shoulders are not hangers. They are not hanging. Okay, so this is our bust point line, our under bust line, which is like I mentioned them. And then this is our waist, and then this is our full length. Okay, so from this point, you are going to mark your armpit. Yes, I said it, armpit. That's not professional. We're going to mark our armhole. Don't mind me. We're going to mark our armhole. So for the armhole, I'm using 8 inches for my armhole. So that armhole line, I'm going to now draw the line. It's going to be straight. It's going to be straight like this. So I've explained before how to get your armhole line. If you don't know, I just want to make sure that somebody does not know it. You can drop it on the comment section, so I'll explain it when I'm done. So I'll connect that line like this. I'll connect it to this point, and then I'll check the mid of this line. So since we're using 8 inches, obviously the mid is going to be 4 inch. So that 4 inch, you're going to come in, because this is the front armhole, you come in with about 1/4 of an inch. So come in this way with about 1/4 of an inch. So from that 1/4 of an inch, I'm just going to draw a line like this, like a diagonal line this way. And then when I do that, I'm going to take my pattern curve. So for those of you that are afraid of pattern drafting, Like I said, there is no big deal. Please just get your mind into it and you would have finished solving the problem. As long as you keep looking for free hand, free hand, free hand, you are not going to really learn. So that's it. Me, most times I normally do free hand. Not like I don't do free hand, but learn pattern drafting. You get why there are some styles that you cannot do with your free hand. Okay, so now let's continue. So now we're going to take out our darts. That's the first thing. So to take out our darts, we're going to use our bust pan measurement, which is the nipple to nipple. So I'll mark it. I'm using 9 inches. I'll divide 9 inches into 2. I'm going to have 4.5 inches this way. So I'll mark this 4.5 across all of my lines, and then I'll connect it with my straight ruler this way. So I'll connect it. So after connecting this like this, the next thing I am going to mark, I'll mark out my neckline. So for the width of the neckline, I'll go with 3.5 inches, and then the depth I am going to go with maybe 3 inches, 3.5 by 3. Okay. So I'm going to connect it this way. So after that, the next thing now for this, I am going to, since I'm working with a bigger bust, I am going to take out. So for the darts, I am going to place all of my darts on one side. Yes, you heard that right. So let me take a look. Most times I always like taking a look at it, and then with that I will know the darts that I'm going to use. Yes, I'll take all of my darts from one side. So the dart that I'm going to be using, I'll use 2 inches dart. So that 2 inches dart, I am going to come to my under bust line this way, and then I'll mark my 2 inches dart this way. So when I mark this 2 inches dart, I'm going to connect it to this point. So in connecting it to this point, I'll use my pattern curve this way. This is not covering very well. I don't like this. So I'll connect this way, and then I'm going to bring it down. So that leg at the down, I don't want it to be straight. So since I use 2 inches at the down part, I'm going to reduce it to like 1 inch here. And then once I do that, I am going to connect it this way. So the essence of me doing this is because I don't want the dart leg. If you notice, those dart leg at that center, they are not straight. Okay, so I'm going to connect it this way, and then I'm going to create a shoulder dart at the top part. So from this point like this, I'm going to check what do I have. What I have here, I'm going to divide that. What I have here, I'm going to divide that into 2 this way. I'll mark it, and then I am going to connect this line. I'm going to extend this line this way. I'll connect it this way. So when I connect it this way, I'll just make sure that everything is blending properly. Okay, so this looks good, it looks okay. And then, so because initially as I was creating my paper, I did not add extra inches, so I'm not going to add a bust dart. If I had added extra inches to the down part, like 2 inches, I would have taken out a bust dart. But since I did not do that, I'm just going to leave it that way. Okay, so you can see my pattern. It looks so pretty, right? Yes. So the next thing I am going to do now, I am going to take out our full body measurement. So in order for us to take out our full body measurement, we are going to come to this point like this, and then we are going to mark our bust. So the bust that we are using is 40 inches. So you divide 40 into 4, you have 10 inches, and then you are going to add 2.5 inches, just like we did the back pattern. And then the same thing that you have here on your chest line, just move it down to your bust points line, because both of them, those lines are the bust section, so they need to be the same. So when you now come to the under bust measurements, your under bust line, you are going to check what you have. You reduce it. Sorry, I said reduce it. You check what you have. So our under bust, we're using 32. 32 divided by 4, we're going to have 8 inches. You mark your 8 inches. Remember our 2 inches dart. So you bring that back, your original dart, bring it back into your pattern that way. And then at this point now, you can now add your stitching allowance. Okay, so I'll add my stitching allowance this way. And then most times I always like to rule. I don't always wait for me to finish before I connect it. I always like to see it this way. You see how beautiful this pattern is looking? Yes. So pattern drafting is not difficult. So the next thing we're going to do now, we'll come to the waist section. So for the waist section, we're going to add our original waistline first before we snatch it later. Okay, so in adding it, our original waist is 36, so 36 divided by 4, we have 9 inches. You mark your 9 inches and then bring back the 2 inches for the stitching allowance. And that's the dart, that's the first dart. This is the original dart, you understand? Bring that back here. And then now at this point now, I can now add my stitching allowance. I'll add my stitching allowance. And then for the down part, I'll use my 40 inches, which is my hip, divide by 4, I have 10. And then I'll add this dart. You know, I took out the front, the down dart, the hip dart is 1 inch. So bring that back into your pattern and then add your stitching allowance of the 2.5. Okay, so when we are finished doing that, I am going to take my pattern curve like this and then set it very well. Make sure it is joining properly. Make sure it is joining properly and then give this a good curve out. Okay, so after marking that, you can see how beautiful this pattern is looking. Yes, it looks good at this point. So the next thing we want to do now, we want to take out, we want to snatch our waistline. Okay, so since we want to snatch our waistline, what I am going to do, I'm going to check what I have here and then I'm going to divide that into 2. Okay, I'll mark it here at this point and then I am going to connect it. So at this point now, I don't want the darts because I don't want my darts to be straight. You understand? You can see they are curving. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my pattern curve and then at this point I am going to place it how I want to. You understand? I'm going to place this how I want. So I can mark it this way. Can you see? So when I mark it this way now, the next thing I want to do now, at this point, this side, you understand, this side, this center front, do I want to still take out? So all of these are options, are what you are going to ask yourself. Or do I just want to concentrate on this side? I don't want to touch the center front. But if you want to touch the center front, you can still rule a line and then you can take out 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch from all of the 3. I think we should do that. Yes, let's do that. Yes, let's play around. So I'm going to check what I have here and then I'm going to divide that into 2. I'm going to divide that into 2. Okay, so once I divide that into 2, I am going to mark. I don't want it to be straight. I don't want that dart to be straight. So you can see what I am trying to do at this point. You can see. So because I don't want it to be straight, so at this point now, instead of taking that middle, it's going to be 2 inches. That's because I don't want my dart. If I wanted the dart to be straight, I'll mark it straight. But since it is a corset, I can design my dart however, my dart legs however I want it. Okay, can you see? So I've marked that. And then the next thing we are going to do before we cut all this snatching, let's mark out our neckline. Okay, so in order for us to mark out our neckline, we are going to come up for that over bust effect. You can see we need to create that over bust. If you notice, you can see it is covering nicely. That's the beauty of an over bust corset. That's one thing I like with an over bust corset. So you are going to determine your chest line is 8 inches. You understand? Do you want to come up by 2 inches? So when you come up by 2 inches, this is 2 inches. Let me just mark it. If you are marking from your shoulder line, so it's going to be like 6 inches. That's from your shoulder now. It's going to be like 6 inches. So that neckline is going to be on 6 inches. But if you feel it's still not long enough, it's still not high enough, you can come up by 5 inches. So this one, it totally depends on you. Depends on how much coverage you want. Okay, so for this, let's do 2.5, which is 6.5. So I'm going to mark that point here. So after marking it here, it's a simple process. Here is what we are going to do, because we are going to tighten that area. So I'm going to use dotted lines. Can you see? So I always like to do this, and then can you see the way I curved it into this point, and then this one for this part like this, I'm going to take it, it's going to come straight, because if you notice the neckline, so when you are drafting your pattern, make sure you take a very good look at the picture of what you're working with. Okay, so for this I'm just going to mark, because I want it to be at the same point. I'm going to check what I have here, and then I'm going to place it, because I don't want it to miss. Can you see? So it's better, I should have even used a what do you call it? Can you see? I should have used a pencil, but it's okay. So after that, I'm going to take my curve like this. I'll place my curve nicely, and then I am going to do this. Can you see? I came up a little bit, but that's okay. So you can see I floated it to this point. So the next thing I want to do now, this part, this small chest part, I want to tighten it. You understand? So in order for me to tighten it, I'm going to take out, it depends on how many inches I want to take out. I can decide to take out just half of an inch, or 1 inch, or 0.75. So for this, I'll take out just half of an inch to be safe. So I'll just mark that half of an inch to this side, and then I'm going to do this. Can you see? So this will serve as like a tightening for my chest area, so that part is not going to be open. Can you see? Can you see what I've done? I've added a tightening here at that point. So if you are going to ask me that, is it not going to affect my pattern, I have 2.5 inches here, so it's not going to affect it. Okay, I have enough allowance, so it's not going to affect it. So I've tightened that part. Okay, all right. So I'll extend this line. So can you guys see? So after this, the next thing, we want to create out our curve. Okay, before we create out our curve, let's take out our dart. Let's tighten the waist. So like I said, we already tightened the back with 3 inches, and then we have 3 inches left, because we said we are going to tighten with 6 inches. That we're taking out 6 inches from our waist to give us the desired snatch we want. So if you notice this line, I just added this dart line because I want to snatch everything by 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. So that will make my 3 inch. So now I'm going to come to this part. I'll take out half of an inch here, and then half of an inch here. So this is my original piece. So once I take that piece that way, I am going to mark that. That is, I'm just going to come down from this bust point line. I'll come down by 1 inch like that. Okay. I wonder what I did. This is half of an inch. Half of an inch. I was wondering. So from this point like this now, I am going to mark. I'm going to create that curve. Can you see? I'll float it into this point like this, and then from that under bust, you don't want to enter that under bust. Okay, I don't want to enter that under bust. I'll mark it that way, and then I'll float it this way. So now this is my snatched part, and then this is the snatched part. Okay, so the next thing I am going to do now, I took out 1 inch already, so I'll come to this side also, and then I'll take out the same 1 inch. Okay, so that 1 inch, I'll take out half of an inch to this side, and then half of an inch to this side. So that half of an inch, I am going to come to this my bust line measurement. So I'm going to just put like an indication, so that I will know where I am going to. So I'll mark it like this, and then I'm not taking anything out from my hip line, and I'm not taking out anything from my bust line. Okay, so that is why you see. So this part also, this is our snatch part. We have taken out 2 inches, and then this again is the third one. So we're taking out another 1 inch from this. So that 1 inch, you take out half of an inch to the right, and then half of an inch to the left. When we say waist snatch, is the waist area, that is where we are snatching. Okay, so please note. So I'm going to take this like this. I don't want to go into my bust measurement, so I am going to mark this like this. I'll come out for the dart leg and then create it in like that, float it in, and then from this part also I'll float out like this and then float in like this. Ooh, my waist. So I'm going to mark, so you can see these are all of my snatch part. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now, I want to create out our beautiful curve for the design. So you know, for the back we came down by 1 inch, that's from the waistline, so I'll just mark that way, and then I'll use my pattern curve to create that beautiful curve effect like this on my pattern. And then guys, we are done with our beautiful corset. So the next thing now, we are going to cut this off. So there's no need, so let me just can you see? Let me see if I can where's my highlight area? Is this highlight? Okay. Yeah. So the next thing, I am just going to cut this like this, and then cut this beautiful piece like this. Alright, I'm going to take that out like this, and then we are going to cut all of this piece like this. So when you are transferring to your fabric, add allowance around the edge. Don't cut it exactly like this, okay? That part I need to be very careful. I just realized. Okay. Always remember to label them so you don't get confused. All right guys, can you guys see how beautiful all of our pattern pieces are on top of the table? Yeah, so that's for the, so this is for the front piece, and then this is our back piece. So you can see how beautiful and easy it is to draft this over bust corset. Can you see? Let me take. Okay. So guys, let me adjust my camera. My people. So guys, oh, look at me, I'm sweating. This camera never still will come. So guys, so thank you so much, all of you that tuned in to our tutorial for tonight. Thank you. I want to say thank you to you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you that tuned in, that stayed for this tutorial. So before that, let me just read. Yes. Oh, Ngozi say you're coming late. Favor. Why did they restrict? Okay, what's the distance between the first dart leg and the second dart leg? Which of the dart legs are you talking about? Is it the original dart? If it is the original dart, the difference between the, I don't understand that question. Okay, is it this number one dart leg? The distance is, if it's the distance, I actually used 2.5 inches. If that's what you mean, I hope I've been able to answer. Okay, so why, ma, you added 2.5 as allowance. What did you add next? Well, after adding 2.5 as my allowance, for which part? After adding 2.5 as my allowance, the next thing I added was, it was after, once I finished adding 2.5 as my allowance, the next thing is to come to the next line. So I'm not sure I added anything extra. Okay. Okay. Ibadan. Ndoti, you're watching from Ghana. Welcome. Nice. Okay, good evening, everyone. You're watching from Ghana. Victoria, so you added 2.5 allowance. What did you add next? What is the distance between the first dart leg and the second dart leg? The distance between the first dart leg and the second dart leg is 2.5 inches. Okay. Good evening. I hope I'm not late. I hope so. You can always go back and rewatch it. Hi, you're watching from Zimbabwe, Zulu. Victoria, if I want to add sleeve, how do I do that? If you want to add sleeve, it's simple, Victoria, because you can see the armpit area. Let me see if I can take this from the back piece. You can see the armhole area. So that is why I was saying, if you want to add sleeve, you can add an off shoulder sleeve, because you can see the curve of the armpit is already here for the back, and then you can see it for the front piece also. It is already here, so you can add your sleeve. Okay. Okay. Ma, when will you be sewing? One, we're not sewing, is pattern we're drafting for this. So most of all of my sewing, they're going to be on my normal YouTube videos, but for our live streams, we're going to be doing, learning how to draft patterns. Okay. So guys, so thank you so much for watching. All of you that tuned in this evening, thank you. We're almost 1 hour done. Thank you. I'll see you guys tomorrow by God's grace. So like I said, if you have a pattern that you want us to draft, you can send me a picture on WhatsApp. Drafting alone, please, not sewing. What you want, you want us to draft, to do pattern drafting, send me your picture on WhatsApp. Not sewing. No, don't tell me to sew it. Or I'm saying it here so that everybody will hear. Please, I have work like this. The work want to hang it on my neck, please. So let's just do pattern drafting. So thank you so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. God bless you all. Happy new month once again.